Hello, friends. It's Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead, and if you are new here, I am a homesteading and homeschooling mother of 9 living in Northwest Ohio, and on my channel, I share a lot about raising a large family, feeding them from scratch, and all of the other fun things that happen on the homestead. Something I don't share a lot about is our homeschooling, and so in today's video, I thought I would talk about several of the practices we have incorporated into our daily rhythm that bring peace to our days. So, whether you're a homeschool mom or not, maybe you can glean something from this to help bring some peace to your days at home. Homeschooling a large family can be rather loud, full, and complicated at times, but in my 12 years of experience, I have discovered a few things that do help bring us some calm and clarity during those busy days. Now, these aren't necessarily productivity hacks or perfect routines or anything like that. They're just small rhythms that are kind of woven into the fabric of our home that help us breathe a little bit. So in today's video, I'll take you visually through what a typical chilly April day is like while I discuss these 6 things that bring peace to my home. The first thing I'd like to talk about is having slow and easy early mornings. There was a time in my life when all of my children were young and they sort of naturally woke up early. You know how the younger they are, the earlier they seem to want to get going. And during that season of life, it made the most sense to capitalize on that and get up and get moving right away. And there were times where we would be at the homeschool table after chores and everybody was dressed by as early as 8:30 to 9 o'clock in the morning. But those days are long gone here in my house. I have teenagers now who have activities in the evenings and stay up a little later. And so I don't like to wake everybody up super early in the morning to get going. As a busy mom, I need that morning time to really ease into the day, and I find that brings me peace and brings the whole home peace. So, what I do is I wake early with my husband and I see him off in the morning. We have our tea and our coffee together, and it's just some lovely time to kind of connect in our marriage. A lot of times the baby will be awake with us, but all of the other children remain asleep. And once I wave him off, I head to the kitchen and maybe I'll nurse the baby. I'll drink another cup of hot tea and I'll get breakfast going. And I love cooking my children a hot breakfast in the morning. The house is quiet, nobody is awake except for maybe the baby, and I can bake something nice. And cook something for them so that when I wake them up, they can come down and immediately have a nice hot breakfast. And I find that that just is a great start to our day. So I will, whoever of the little ones is awake will join me as we're making breakfast. And once it is complete, I'll go wake the big children up. They'll come down and eat, and then we'll start with our morning chores. I think that that has just brought a lot of peace to our home, that I can kind of ease into that morning, get myself dressed and ready, and then start opening the curtains and waking up all of these sleepy children. The second thing that I've incorporated into our days that I find really does bring us peace is having a gentle and predictable rhythm. So I'm not a big fan of having my day scheduled down extremely specifically. So, for example, we're not doing school at exactly this time and then moving on and doing chores at exactly this time. I like to have a daily flow that I adhere to, or a rhythm, I guess you would call it, that is predictable and the same pretty much every day. But otherwise, when those items that are on our flow or in our rhythm happen, can vary depending on when we wake or what other things happen in the morning to maybe push things back or move things forward. I do find that having that predictable rhythm for the children helps them to stay on track. It helps them when they know what comes next, and there's no question about that because every day we do the same thing. Um, it just doesn't leave any room for anyone to complain about what's happening next because they just know this is the flow of our days. And so that really does bring me peace. For me as a mom, I know that sometimes it can feel monotonous when you do the same thing in the same order every single day, but there is a certain level of peace that comes with that. Those monotonous, slow days, it isn't boring because life can't be boring when you have this much activity and there's that much to do. But rather than boring, it just feels safe and secure and peaceful in a way that there's just all of these boxes that need to be checked, and you kind of go into autopilot and you just get them done because the day always flows in the same way. And I love that. It really is a beautiful thing. The next thing that I have found has really made my days easier and a whole lot less stressful is meal planning. I do know that not everyone is a fan of having an extremely specific meal plan, but I am someone that has to have one. If you're new here, in our family, we're dealing with anaphylactic food allergies, which means that most foods that are prepackaged in the grocery store or things like takeout or restaurant foods, fast food, are not an option for us. In order to feed my son safely, I pretty much have to cook everything from scratch. And the only way that I'm going to be able to do that without being completely stressed out and frazzled is if I go into it each day with a detailed plan. Now, I already mentioned breakfast. Breakfast isn't a difficult meal for me to make because we have those really slow, laid back mornings. I really enjoy, cooking and baking and doing something, for the children in that way. That doesn't bring me stress. That's easy. But if I don't have a plan, lunch can be one of the most stressful times of my day. We might be in the middle of doing lessons. Maybe our daily flow kind of ran late in that day, and the children are starting to get hungry. And if I haven't planned something, it feels chaotic to run into the kitchen and just dig through the cupboards and try to grab something and come up with something, on the top of my head. But if I've laid it out and planned it ahead of time, it makes it that much easier. It's the same thing with dinner. We do our afternoon chores, usually around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when the animals expect it and are getting hungry. And if I haven't planned something, it seems like chores get done. It's nearing 5 o'clock. We have activities maybe scheduled for that evening. I hate feeling rushed and stressed out trying to come up with something when maybe meat hasn't been thawed and things haven't been planned out. So I sit down every Sunday. I look at what we have available in our pantry and in our freezers, and I make a detailed meal plan. And I've done many videos on this in the past that you can find on my channel. And having that meal plan in place just makes those meal times stress free. A lot of times during my slow, laid back morning, I might get food in the crock pot so that dinner's already handled, before 9 o'clock in the morning. I might get lunch simmering on the stove if it's something like a soup, or if I wanted to have a bread with one of our meals, I can get that dough made and rising early in the day. I just don't want to have to cut school lessons short or rush through any part of my day in order to get a meal done if I can plan ahead and make it a peaceful process instead. You'll see that the children are outside right now, and that is another thing that I do to bring peace to our days. We make sure that we have time outdoors pretty much every day. I find that with young children, like these three very active little boys, they often need to get outside just to get the wiggles out. So sometimes we'll do it before I start school lessons with them. They can run around, wear themselves out, and then they seem to be much more attentive and give me less resistance to wanting to do their school lessons if they've had that time. Fresh air is always good for all of us, myself included, and just puts us in a good mood. So many days, our time outdoors might be doing our actual school lessons on our back deck in the sunshine. It could be on this day that I'm showing you right now, we did our read aloud book for science was about how apple trees grow. So we took a little walk outside and the kids were able to point at all of the different stages of development of those buds on the apple trees. So we make our outdoor time part of whatever we're learning about in science. Sometimes that outdoor time could be time spent in the garden together and planting with the children, or it can just be play. Now, we do live in Ohio, and so in the springtime, there is a lot of rain, and that can put a damper on our plans to get outdoors. Also, winters can be rather cold, but that for us is generally no excuse for, not getting outside. I'll bundle the children up. We have appropriate snow gear and snow boots, and the kids love to get outside in the cold weather and play and explore on the property. And then I have fun making them things like hot cocoa for when they come inside. And I just feel like, especially if you have a lot of children in a small space like we have, there's just times in the day where getting the children outside where they can run around and be as loud as they want helps to bring a little bit of peace back to the house. Things get quiet, there are less bodies in the house. While the children are playing outdoors, you can straighten things up and clean and just get things back in order to maintain a sense of calm and tidiness and peace in your home. A fifth thing that we do in our home to help maintain some peace during our homeschool days is to make sure we're planning with margins. And I do that in the kids' homeschool curriculum planning, which I tend to do once a year in the summers. We do take summers off for our older children who are middle school and high school. The little ones do tend to school round. But since in the summers I'm not having to manage older children's homeschool lessons, I have a little more time to do planning. And so I sit down and I take all of the new curriculum that I've bought for the next year and we plan everything out for usually for the first half of the year until December. And then during our December break, I will plan out for the rest of the year. And when I do that planning, I try not to cram too much into the week. I will often do 4 full days worth of schoolwork with a fifth day that might just be half full, or they just do a couple of their more necessary lessons like math and language arts. And leaving that fifth day not completely full allows us to spread some work out if things come up throughout the week. With my little ones, I only school them 4 days a week. And sometimes it might even be 3 days a week. Since we go year round, we're able to do that. And so leaving those margins within the week to allow for unexpected events that come up, that helps keep things much less stressful. You never know when illness might strike and you're not able to do school for a couple days at a time, or you might have unexpected guests that stop by during the time that you would be doing lessons with the children, or maybe the weather is just so beautiful that you're like, I just want to pack up and take the kids to the park on this day instead of staying in and doing book work. If you've left some margins in your curriculum planning, it's going to make it you much more flexible and much more able to do things like that, which will maintain peace and joy in your homeschool week. If you don't leave those margins in your curriculum planning, what's going to happen is when these unexpected illnesses and things come up, you're going to feel like you're behind if you have to take a few days off or maybe even a week off. And then you're going to feel like you're constantly playing catch up, which just adds stress to those homeschool days. And the whole point is to try to avoid that feeling as much as possible. So give yourself a break. We've gone through years where we have schooled for 6 weeks on and then left a week off. And that week could be a catch up week if we needed it, or it can be a week off if we stayed on track. There's other times where we've schooled just 3 days a week year round for everyone, and that worked during seasons where the children were younger. And I know that we would want to take breaks to go to the zoo and go to the park a lot more frequently. But that's the beautiful thing about homeschooling is you get to determine your schedule that works for you. And in whatever you do, just make sure you're allowing a small margin for error and for delays and sickness and things like that so that you don't feel like you're behind and having to play catch up all the time. The final thing I want to bring up in this video is nap time. I have always prioritized nap time for my little ones. Generally, anyone who is kindergarten age and younger will take a nap during the day, and I'll get them napping together. And sometimes that means putting everyone in the master bedroom to kind of snuggle in together, and I'll nurse the baby to sleep while the toddler lays next to me, and maybe I stroke their hair or something. But this is so important for everyone in the home. Having a quiet home for a couple of hours in the afternoon gives the older children some time to do more intense and focused study with a very quiet house. It gives me a little time to recharge. It also allows me to give a little more one on one attention to the older children if their studies are demanding that extra attention. And I just find it blesses everyone in the home. The children are, much more well behaved when they get that little break in the afternoon to sleep. And then I find at dinner time we're not dealing with bad attitudes and things, and it blesses everyone, whether you're the one actually receiving the nap or the one benefiting from the quiet in the house while the little ones are napping. I'll often use that nap time to finish up dinner, or if I've already put dinner in the crock pot for that day, it might be a time where I can work on projects for myself if none of the older children need me. And I might be able to work on YouTube or go get out in the garden, whatever needs to get done. And so, if you're someone who struggles with nap time, I would just highly recommend getting into a pattern where you prioritize it. Make sure you're not scheduling things outside of the home during that time of the day when your little ones would be napping. Make sure you work on your homeschool daily flow to accommodate that and leave that time in the afternoon. It really is a blessing to you as a mother to just have those few hours to get other things that need done other than tending to the little ones. So those are just 6 things that we do. I could probably list many more, but this video is already getting long, so I'll save that for another video on another day. I just absolutely love homeschooling my children. I love that it allows them to focus on passions that they have outside of academics. You'll notice that in this video I've had children teaching themselves to compose music for animations that they're creating on the computer. My daughter here wants to be a midwife when she's older, and so she's been assessing the baby's development since my baby has been born, and she also assessed me every week throughout the pregnancy. I have children that sew and craft and knit and work on gymnastics or ballet or work on the computer, whatever they want to do during that time. And I just find that it blesses us. There are a lot of things that we need to keep up with it in a day. So you'll see that I keep this checklist on the fridge just to keep me in check and make sure I'm grading work that needs graded and making sure that all of my I's get dotted and my T's get crossed throughout the day, because with this many people in a home, all doing individual subjects and all having their own chores, I need to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. And so having that list on the fridge and just checking in with children throughout the day to make sure that they've accomplished all of those tasks just really helps keep things calm and peaceful and easy for me so that I'm not forgetting anything. So that's it for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed this little peek into our homeschool day. This was a typical April day, as I mentioned, very chilly, but things are starting to warm up. So a lot of our homeschooling will move outdoors soon, and I am so excited for that. It's been a long winter in the house. There are many things you can do to make your homeschool days easier, and I just really think having a plan is part of it, whether it's for meals or curriculum or housework, whatever it is that you find to be the hardest part of homeschooling. But I think also making sure that you're flexible with those plans is going to be a huge uh, blessing and part of maintaining peace. So, all right, friends, we'll see you next week. Bye.